Hi, I'm Julie Lynn, and this is the Use Your Noodle podcast. Today we are working with ZWS Scotland to talk all about food waste. Now, ZWS Scotland have made this amazing tool. Did you know that food waste actually contributes a third towards the emissions into our environment? So if we try and reduce our food waste in the house, we're essentially helping ourselves save the environment. And with over a third of all of the food in the UK and the world going to food waste, I think it's about time that we did something about it in our houses. Now, this tool is going to take you through all of the stats and figures and ways that you can plan out your weekly meals in order to reduce that. Because if you think about it, if a third's going to waste, then that actually means one meal out of our breakfast, lunch and dinner is going to waste every day. That could be going to someone who needs it, or it could be just that we're actually reducing our portions, saving money, and also saving time cooking. If you're cooking for all of that time and you're not actually eating it, then we need more time back. It's a busy, busy time of life. So I have been working with them quite closely, and I've actually started on a little food diary of my own this week. So I went to the shops on Sunday and I did my weekly shop. I always do it on a Sunday because then it sets me up for the rest of the week. And I think one of the things that makes me think about food waste so much is the fact that we get kind of sick of our leftovers and we don't really tend to know what to do with them. So I have set up a full diary on my Instagram, and it's going to show you ways that I've used one dish to turn it into 3 separate dishes. So, for example, I always start off with a really nice ritual on a Sunday of just roasting off some chicken. And it's like quite a therapeutic thing because I know every single Sunday night I'm going to have some roast chicken and it's going to be really lovely. And then I get this thing where I'm like, oh, former Julie did a really nice job and made myself some crispy roast chicken. So I always start off with thighs, and I think that is like a great way to portion for yourself because I live alone, and actually I have my friends around for dinner all the time, so I need to kind of factor that in as well. And on top of that, I also do quite a lot of recipe testing, so I really have to think about my week, where I'm going to be if I'm going out for dinner or lunch. So I decided to start off with that. I've got my 4 roast chicken thighs, and I had that on the night just with some really nice potatoes. And then the next day, again, I just get a bit sick of eating the same thing over and over, and I respect people who can do these meal prep plans of having healthy rice and, chili throughout the whole week, and that's the one thing that I eat, but my brain just doesn't work that way. So the next day I then made a really delicious dish, and it's called wonton hor fan. And from roasting those chickens, I got this beautiful chicken stock that I then used for the noodle dish that day, and then just broke up some of those chicken thigh pieces and fried it through with all those kind of really nice wok noodles, and it was just delicious, and I wasn't bored of what I was eating as well. The next night I was like, do you know what? I think I'm going to need a bit more veggies in my life. And I had a really nice kind of like grilled aubergine, and I did it with soy and tamarind and palm sugar and just made it really like delicious and full of flavour, and had it with some of those greens, because greens is actually, I think that's one of the top things that we waste in the UK weekly is our greens. So things like salads, kale, leaves, spinach. You always know when you get that kind of like sad little bit of spinach at the end of the week, and it's a bit slimy and gross. So I always try and use that first. So that's also another one of my tips, is to use these bits first that you're going to waste. Start using them at the beginning of the week. And I made this delicious grilled aubergine dish, and oh my goodness, it was delicious, and had it with some rice, some crispy fried garlic on top, and those greens on the side. And obviously I live alone, so I only had half of that aubergine, so I had the other half that was still marinated in all of the same things the next day. I also did swap the cuisines throughout the week as well, and because I've been eating mostly Asian, I was like, I really fancy a sandwich. So I ended up frying off that aubergine again the next day, and I had it with a fried egg in the sandwich and some grilled halloumi with a bit of chili mayo through it as well, and it was just unbelievable. A runny yolk, had it for a kind of brunchy lunch, and it was just amazing. So basically what I'm trying to say is one of my tools for reducing my food waste in the house is trying to stretch what I can do with those foods. I've been known to turn a bolognese into like a cumin stir fry with like Sichuan peppercorns to it. So you have it at the bolognese, and I'm breaking all the rules of cuisine and tradition. There'll be some Italians turning in their grave, but it means that I'm going to use it the next day. So if I have a bit of mince left over and I fry off a bit of garlic with some Sichuan peppercorns and cumin, add in that mince, I'm changing the flavour profile of that bolognese and add in a bit of soy, and there you go. You can have it with noodles, you can have it on rice. So part of my aim for this is just to show you that once you've made these dishes, and it's often cooked foods that we end up wasting the most of because we just don't know quite how to turn them into something else. So once we have these dishes, you can turn them into whatever you like. And that's part of why I'll go for changing the cuisine into a kind of slightly different meal in order to keep myself excited about it. Now, I'm going to go through some stats with you that I'm reading on this online toolkit. It is really useful. And I think once you start to read it, you'll know what I mean and why it's so important that we need to focus in on this. Did you know that an estimated 1.3 billion tonnes of food is wasted globally, which is obviously absolutely huge, and food waste accounts for only 18% of household waste by weight, but it's responsible for 30% of household waste carbon impacts, which is huge. Now, I know that there's so many things that happen around the world that can really be quite daunting, and it's difficult to try and reduce your carbon footprint in so many ways, but I always just say the way to keep your mind around it is just do what you can within your household, within your life. And we cook for ourselves every week, I would say. I'm sure everyone does, unless we're getting takeaways all the time, which try cooking, it's much cheaper. But I think if you can do these things daily, it makes it a lot easier, and it makes you know that you are actually contributing something a bit more to this world. So that is part of my message to you. Now, I was really lucky this week also to speak to none other than expert Ollie Smith. Now, Ollie Smith has been on our screens for 18 years now. He'll hate me for being honest with that. But he is the expert in food, wine and drink, and he's very passionate about it. And on top of us thinking about our food waste, there's ways that we can think about it by using good packaging. Now, I went to the Ubiquitous Chip in Glasgow to speak to Ollie Smith and ask him all about what his thoughts are on drinks and waste products. I think it's going to be working.
Do you think it's working now?
I'm sure it'll be working fine.
I think we sound very good.
I think we sound sexy.
Well, considering we're in a pub.
We're in a pub.
We are in a pub.
So yeah. I have the privilege of being in a pub with none other, the wine expert, life's lovely man, the golden soul. I'm looking at his smile and it makes me happy. It's the one and only Ollie Smith.
Hello, Julie. How lovely to be here.
Thank you for coming to meet me.
I could not be more thrilled. I love Glasgow. I adore you. I couldn't be more delighted to have been hanging out with you in Gaga and having the time of my life.
Oh my goodness, I'm crying already.
Yeah,
I'm
me
crying
too.
already. So
joy.
The context of this is that Ollie and I have just spent the weekend having a lovely Glasgow days. And they do exist when it doesn't rain in this little city.
Even when it's a bit dreek, I still love it.
Oh, you said dreek?
I did, yeah. It was. My
so
granny
dreek.
was Scottish, so these little things do creep in occasionally.
I love that so much. It's well, Glasgow loves you back.
Thank you.
You're very welcome here.
Thank you.
Very welcome. So we're sitting in the Ubiquitous Chip,
Yeah.
having a lovely little half pint and talking all things food
Yeah.
and food waste.
Yeah, food waste. We've got to
Yeah.
cut down on it. And from my point of view in drinks, I think things like packaging I love. Let's start with that. I love drinks in cans because cans, infinitely recyclable. I love that they lock in the freshness of the drink.
Yeah.
No harmful UV light can get to the drink. It's entirely as the kind of maker of the drink intended. A great example is Rapscallion soda right here in Glasgow made. They're fantastic. Using kind of real fruit, really good flavors. I think they're a really good example, actually, of just end-to-end being really good to the environment and caring about what they're putting into things. Infinite recyclable is great. If you're using glass, lightweight. Always got to be lightweight bottles.
Yeah.
I'm really into things like Tetra Paks as well. And I think we should look at those.
Yes.
Re-examine.
Yeah.
You see a lot of oat milks and things like that in these things.
Yes.
I think that should be rolled out really well. Vac packs, the big bag and box ideas for lots of different liquids, that could work. The good old-fashioned milk bottle's quite a good example.
I love that.
I still get a milk delivery, and I like that it is there, and it is an object like a pint glass that gets reused over and over again. It doesn't need to be broken. It doesn't need to change. It is iconic. It fits in the hand beautifully. I think it's a design classic. So
I love it.
there's so many ways we can reduce some of our waste, but I think packaging is an enormous one.
It's huge. And do you not think it kind of tastes better when you
I
get milk
definitely
from your
think
glass bottle?
A pint of milk from a glass
Yeah.
bottle. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you want.
That's what you love. Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
And I think there is so many ways that we can obviously reduce things that we have in the house and packaging is one of them. And have you seen any kind of changes in trends with things like wine is obviously in glass bottles quite a lot? Are we starting to see repackaged drink items? So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I think more and more, it's not just about the liquid in the bottle.
Yeah.
It's about the sustainability of the
Yeah.
whole project. And that for me has become the most important thing. I think the conversation that I'm also really interested in is the actual content we're putting into ourselves. You know, we're all very aware now of our gut biomes.
Yeah.
And of the, you could say, the planet biome, the health of the soil, sustainability. Food waste is just another aspect of the same issue, looked from a different sort of point of view. And, you know, when I'm down the supermarket, I just really don't want another plastic bag. I really don't need any more cling film wrap. I'm very happy to have things that are just as they are. I can deal with it.
Yes.
Tied up with a bit of string. Paper bag even. I remember the old grocers down the end of my granny's street when I was growing up, Mr. Gresham's. And it was just paper bags twisted over, and it was an altogether simple way of living without actually lots of things going deep into the system that then can't be recycled.
Absolutely. And do you know what? On a very vain level, it's far more aesthetically pleasing.
I love a paper bag, Julie.
I love a paper bag.
I've got a thing
It's
about
on
it.
trend.
Is it really? Is that the first time ever I've
we'll
been
make
trendy?
it on trend.
Julie, I think you could make pretty much anything trendy. If Julie Lynn says it's trendy, then it is.
Paper bags are
Then it
chic
is.
now.
Have you got any bugbears about kind of food waste, about things that we could do little
I
tips?
do. And I think it's always that we tend to overfeed ourselves. So I think the portioning is something. We need to like figure out how we cook for one, how we cook for two, and almost repurpose our leftover foods.
Yes.
So I tend to get this thing where you get like, I just get a bit bored of having the same meal. So I couldn't do like a meal prep thing. I would hate that. I would just get too bored. So I want to turn that, for example, packet of mince into something else the next day. For example, I just had, do you know what I made? I actually wish I had you around for dinner that night. I made some steamed aubergine with tamarind and peanuts. And it was delicious. I had it on rice with some sugar snap peas for my dinner the night before. But then I had another half of an aubergine and I was like, what am I going to do with this? And I fried up a fried egg and some halloumi, made a sambal mayo and put it in ciabatta. And I had this life-changing ciabatta on my own in my house for breakfast.
You know
And
what?
it was
Breakfast
great.
can be life-changing.
It can be life-changing.
Yeah, well, you know me, my favourite breakfast is a
know.
nasi goreng, a savoury breakfast all the way.
Nasi goreng is like the ultimate
I think
no waste hack.
Yeah, it's got everything in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've
Get
got,
the rice that you had from the
yeah, a
night
little
before.
bit of chicken, a little shrimp, whatever you've got actually.
Yeah.
It seems to be
I know.
But the fried egg on top, it's got to be.
I love it.
So I love the idea that
Yeah.
even if there are little kind of, let's say, like, you know, if I very rarely peel a potato these days because I like the skin actually. But let's say I did, I would make chips out of them or something, or fry them or eat them. They're delicious. But even
Delicious.
things like, you know, the ends of tops. You mentioned an aubergine, just the tops of those. I'm a great composter. I love I'm lucky enough to have a garden.
yes.
But it's a vital part of our kind of daily
Yeah.
life that we make our compost, we then, you know, let it settle, we deal with it, and then it goes back onto the veg that we grow in our own garden. Super lucky to be able to do that. But it is all part of our food program within our small household to make sure that nothing goes to waste, or as little as possible.
I can imagine that. And do you think since having the garden, you become more aware of wastage? Because you will
Yeah.
see how long it takes
Yeah.
for things to grow
You're
and
spot on.
how long it takes things to ripen.
Yeah, and there's nothing more heartbreaking than if you know, we're an organic garden, but if you have put in a lot of effort and you've grown things from seed and, you know, the good old slugs and snails come and get the better of you,
what are they like?
it's a bit of a heartbreaking moment, but there are various precautions you can take. It turns out wool is a very useful thing to put around the bottom
Is
of your
it?
Yeah, it's particularly indoors, yeah. Outside it gets soggy and they can go over it. Eggshells is another one. We use eggshells from our sort of boiled eggs in the morning. Crushed up, you just put that around the veg and it stops the slugs and snails from going over it. Yeah, it works a charm.
This is a top tip.
It's a good
Being
tip.
the city girl that doesn't get
Yeah,
this is good to know.
So it's not going to be for everybody, but if you, it's effort. And actually, we used to only garden really mainly in the summer months, but we've recently converted over to 12 months of the year now. So we're growing in winter as well. So all
That's
the
amazing.
kales and cauliflowers and all of that sort of stuff. But the thing is, they're really slow growing and they take an awfully long time. Onions as well, garlic. You know, it takes three quarters of the year, something like that. But I have a real reverence as a result for the product, for the thing at the end of the day, and therefore for the flavour. So yes, I'm into the kind of the impact in a recipe, but I also really want to know how it's grown, where it comes from. I think it is the most important conversation we can have around food and drink.
Oh, that is so lovely. just seeing it all growing from scratch.
Yeah.
And you've obviously got a lovely family, which I'm dying
very
to meet.
lucky.
I've seen
You will
lots,
meet
many
them.
lovely photos of them.
Yeah, little Ruby
Do
and
you
Lily.
think it's been nice for them to see that growing up and how they come into that in the world?
Definitely. And we've expanded the whole garden to be really friendly towards nature in general. I'm the patron of the Bumblebee Conservation Trust. Bees
That is
really
the
need-
loveliest title I've ever. That's what
I'm
we
one
should
of
have
the patrons, I
started
should say.
with.
It's not just me. But everything since World War II, I think it's something like 95% of wild forage, that's the wildflowers, the things they feed on, has sadly gone away because of intensive agriculture. Now that's something that we can address in small measures by no mow May. We can have verges that don't get mown if you lobby your council. But it's wonderful to see within my garden the effect over the last 10 years of gardening in this way, leaving patches for nature. I'm very lucky to have that space, but over the years, it's not just the bees and the butterflies that come back. It's the wealth of bird life, it's the slow worms, and the frogs and the newts in our little pond and great crested newts. And there is a whole massive surge of things that live. And when we dig our soil, the amount of earthworms, I mean, it's such an indication of positive biomarkers to see so many.
Oh, wow, yeah.
It's joyful. And the fact is it's teeming with life. And I'd much rather think of things grown from a place that is teeming with life than not.
Yes.
And it's life on all fronts. It's not just for me, the old cauliflower. If I can garden around it and have space for the wildlife as well, that just brings everything more strongly in terms of the growing, in terms of their resilience, in terms of their interdependence. And it's how we should, how we should be looking to the future. A little bit more small-scale agriculture that's mixed farming. I'm really interested in mixed farming. Historically, obviously, I've looked at vines a lot, but that's a monoculture, and I love the idea of mixtures of plants. A lot of the kind of planting in Italy would be olives and vines and then vegetables. And something we kind of, if you think about the allotment, it's what we do anyway. It's not rocket science.
Yeah, you have a bit of a mixture
a
of
couple of raspberries,
potatoes,
a bit of this, bit of the other, and it's a really, wonderfully invigorating area
Yeah.
to grow in.
Oh my goodness.
I love it.
You're a wealth of knowledge, Ollie Smith.
Well, I don't know about that. I do think it's really important that we'll do our little bit and take as much responsibility as we can to try and be sustainable and try and look at food waste in the way that engages positive behaviour.
You're so right. And I think it's because it can get overwhelming, the thought of saving the planet with your own little pinky and that's
correct.
it.
Yeah.
But I think when you know you can do what you can within your own circumference, change that positively and with impact. I love that.
Julie, you're a complete superstar.
And Ollie Smith, thank you for chatting to me.
It's my pleasure.
We're now going to go back to
it's my round.
having our little pints in the pub.
Cheers for listening, one and all.
Thank you so much to Mr. Ollie Smith for chatting to me about that, because it is really interesting to think about ways that we can use different products to reduce our food waste. So how we keep things fresh as well, if we give ourselves a bit more time by using a canned good, because things are going to stay fresher in there for longer. And cans, obviously, as he was saying, once they've been made, can be constantly recycled. So you're not then having to produce a new substance in order to have your food in there. So again, great for the environment. Now, when I was talking to Ollie about this, there is actually a stat about fizzy drinks which came across my ether on the Zero Waste Scotland website. And did you know that 63,000 litres of fizzy drinks are thrown out every single day? So that is 190,000 cans. When I think about fizzy drinks, you've obviously got a bit of a time limit on it. If you have one of those big bottles, I always find they're a nightmare because they go flat so easily, and then you've got this kind of syrupy juice at the bottom of a bottle which you don't really want. So whenever I'm doing that, I'll tend to buy canned drinks rather than going for those big bottles. God, I think I even bought some fizzy apple juice from an unknown brand the other day, and I just bought it in tiny cans instead. And I've been looking at my fridge being like, okay, that is great. I've still got fresh juice and it's not gone off and it's not gone flat. So it was really interesting to hear that. And again, kind of leans into what Ollie was saying about the fact that we've got these Tetra Packs coming up now, which keeps things fresher for longer, and canned goods. So hopefully we'll go more into that. Going back into food waste, there is so much food waste, and I really wanted to learn about the actual products that we are wasting the most of every week in the UK. And there is £63 million of dairy waste that's thrown away every year. So that is enough milk for 500,000 bowls of cereal every single day. So a staggering number that we're kind of throwing away. So I thought to myself, what are the different recipes that I could do with milk in order to save this? And there is one which I absolutely love, and it keeps the milk a bit fresher for longer, and you get 2 different products out of the milk, and it's to make your own cream cheese. If you just use the milk that's about to go off and add a bit of lemon, a bit of salt, and then bring that up to boil, you get these curds, and then they can be whipped into a really nice cream cheese. And because the fat content is a bit higher, you'll buy yourself a bit more time by having that cream cheese. So therefore the milk that you're about to throw out has just turned into this whole new product, which I think is great. And even when I've been doing this, I mean, I've made some like milk stouts, made them a bit sweeter. It's always about thinking about ways that you can make that product last longer for you. So I've got some top tips for that as well. So you've got things like your freezer. Your freezer is a great way. That's going to buy you more time. Put something in the freezer and give yourself a bit more time to use it. And you're maybe not under the time pressure of the milk or anything that you may have in the fridge going off quite as quickly. And another way that I like to do it is to make things a bit more syrupy. So using sugar will obviously give yourself a bit more time with that. Even preserving things in oils. So if you have garlic in oil, it's going to last for ages. It doesn't have the same exposure to the kind of oxygen that makes things go off. So always look at what you have, and there is ways that you can save this. And this Zero Waste Scotland tool is really useful for giving you ideas about how to save products, and then also just how to reduce your shop in the first place in order to make this happen. My main message for this is that we are all guilty of wasting food. And I think it's about like being honest about it. Sometimes it happens to me and I don't want it to, but I will try every single way that I can to not waste food. And this tool has really helped me. And even being a chef, and I do all these recipe developments and I do all this, I'm around food all the time. I know that time pressure is a bit of a difficult one. So I always try and give people tools in order to give yourself a bit more time and take the pressure off you, because it's all about the little things that we do to get there. And I guarantee by using this week by week, it'll make it a bit easier to reduce your weekly shop, plan things out, and make sure that you aren't just throwing food away and throwing your own money away. So yes, I just really want to thank Zero Waste Scotland for getting us involved in this, because it's a subject that means a lot to me and it's been a pleasure to talk about it. So please head over to the Instagram and Substack of Use Your Noodle, and there'll be a waste recipe in there this week, and I really hope you like it. I'm going to keep that a surprise to what it is, so you go and visit. But thank you so much, and thank you for listening to the Use Your Noodle podcast.